My name is Caroline Whitman, and for the longest time, I believed I was living a fairy tale. I was 38, a published author living in a brownstone apartment in Manhattan with my husband Mark, a financial consultant whose voice could melt away my stress in seconds. He had a way of saying my name, soft and slow, like a promise. Every morning started with a kiss on the forehead and coffee, just the way I liked it. Every evening ended with him whispering, "You are my world." I believed him, until one night everything changed. It was close to midnight. I woke up to an empty bed. At first, I assumed Mark had gone downstairs to grab a snack or check on something. I rolled over, thinking I'd drift back to sleep. Then I heard it. A voice. His voice. It was coming from his home office, low, serious, calculated. "She still doesn't suspect anything," he said. I froze for a moment. I couldn't breathe. The air felt thick, and my heart started pounding like a drum in my chest. I sat up, listening harder. "Everything's going as planned, almost done," he continued. I tiptoed to the hallway, pressing myself against the wall near his office door. A thin line of light escaped through the crack. I could barely hear the rest, but I didn't need to. I had heard enough. I crept back to bed, lying as still as I could, pretending to sleep when Mark returned minutes later. He slipped into bed with the same practiced calm, pulling the blanket over us like he hadn't just shattered my world. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing. I didn't know what he was planning, but I knew one thing for sure. My husband was hiding something, and it involved me. The next morning, I moved through the kitchen like a ghost. Mark was still asleep, his breathing slow and steady. I stood in front of the coffee maker, my hands trembling as I reached for my phone. Until that moment, I hadn't once checked our finances. Mark always handled everything, bills, savings, investments. I trusted him. I thought that was what a good wife did, but trust, I was learning, could be the first step toward losing everything. I opened the banking app. My breath caught. Transaction after transaction flashed on the screen. $500 here, $1,000 there, $750, $2,000. Dozens of withdrawals over the past 3 months. Nothing enormous on its own, but together they painted a picture, a very ugly one. I gripped the edge of the counter, trying to steady myself. Then came the voice behind me. "Checking the account this early?" Mark's tone was casual, but I caught the flicker of surprise in his eyes as he leaned against the doorway, rubbing the back of his neck. "Just being curious," I said, trying to sound nonchalant. "Some of these charges look unfamiliar." He walked over, poured himself a cup of coffee, and gave me a practiced smile. "Oh, those? Just a few small investments. I must have forgotten to mention them." He took a sip without meeting my eyes. Something inside me snapped. It wasn't anger, not yet. It was something colder, something sharper. I nodded slowly, pretending to accept his explanation. But I was watching him now, not with love, not with trust, but with clarity. Every casual shrug, every deflection was another crack. 2 days later, I got my chance. It was a quiet evening. Mark had just finished dinner and said he was going to take a shower. Normally, he would carry his phone with him everywhere, like it was an extension of his body. But tonight, for the first time, he left it on the dining table. I stared at it. My heart pounded in my chest like a warning bell. I waited 30 seconds, then 60. I heard the water running upstairs and I reached for it. His phone was unlocked. My fingers trembled as I scrolled through the recent messages. Most were harmless, work-related reminders, casual chats. But then one message thread stood out. No contact name, just a number. The most recent message read, "Send her the Ilium files. Just make sure she stays in the dark. Almost done." I froze. I read the message again, then again, my mind racing. Ilium files. Make sure she stays in the dark? Who was her? Was it me? Was he sending someone something about me? My stomach turned. I placed the phone back exactly where he had left it, careful not to disturb anything. Then I walked to the kitchen, splashed cold water on my face, and tried to slow my breathing. The sound of the shower was still going. I had a few more minutes, but I couldn't stop thinking. Mark wasn't just lying. He wasn't just cheating. He was planning something big, and I was the target. Later that night, when he got into bed, he kissed my forehead like always. "You okay?" he asked, his voice soft. I nodded and smiled faintly. "Just tired." Inside, I was screaming. He didn't know that I had seen the message. He still believed I was in the dark. That was his mistake, and I planned to use it. The next morning, as soon as Mark left for work, I called Anna. Anna Prescott wasn't just my best friend from college. She was also a brilliant estate attorney. We had lost touch for a few years but reconnected last summer over coffee. I never imagined I'd be calling her like this. When she picked up, I didn't waste time. My voice shook as I told her everything. Mark's late-night whispers, the hidden transactions, the message about the Ilium files. She listened quietly. When I finished, she asked just one question. How much money are we talking? Close to $500,000, I said. There was a pause. Then her voice came back, firm and clear. Caroline, we need to move your assets now. I felt my knees weaken, so I sat on the edge of the couch. Are you sure? I whispered. Yes. If you wait, he'll make his next move. We'll create a trust in your name. It'll be legally protected. He won't be able to touch a dime. I swallowed hard. The apartment, the savings, the book royalties, the investments, everything I had worked for was on the line. I'm in, I said. The next 72 hours were a blur of documents, signatures, and phone calls. Anna worked like a machine. She brought in her team. We moved the apartment title into the trust, locked down the investment accounts, and shifted every asset under my personal legal protection. By the time Mark got home on the third day, I had done what I never thought I would have to do: defend myself from the man I once trusted with my life. He walked through the door, carrying takeout, wearing his usual charming smile. Thought we'd have Thai tonight, he said cheerfully. I nodded and took the bag from his hand. He had no idea everything had changed. The papers were signed, the money moved, the fortress built. He could try whatever he wanted, but he would never get near my assets again, and I wasn't going to warn him. Let him believe I was still asleep. Let him make the next move, because now I was ready. 4 days later, Mark made his move. It was a Friday evening. He came home earlier than usual, dressed in one of his tailored suits. He looked calm, almost smug, as he set his briefcase down and sat across from me at the dining table. We need to talk, he said, sliding a folder toward me. I didn't flinch. I opened it slowly, revealing the documents inside. Divorce papers. I think it's for the best, he continued, his voice rehearsed. We've grown apart. I don't want things to become more painful. I looked up at him, keeping my face unreadable. Really? I asked. He hesitated for a second, just long enough for me to see the flicker of uncertainty behind his eyes. Then he nodded. Yes, it's better this way. I took a breath and slid the folder back toward him. Before we go any further, there's something you should know. His brows drew together. What? I leaned forward just slightly. My voice was calm, clear, and deliberate. I've already moved everything. He blinked. What? The apartment, the accounts, the royalties, all of it. It's in a protected trust now. You can't touch it. The color drained from his face. What do you mean? I mean, I said, my tone steady, you don't get to walk in here, hand me divorce papers, and walk away with half of my life. His jaw tightened, his hand clenched around the edge of the folder. You can't do that. I already did. He stared at me for a long moment, searching for some sign of weakness, but I didn't give him one. You were right about one thing, I said quietly. Life is unpredictable. He pushed back from the table, slowly rising. We'll see each other in court, he said, his voice cold and sharp. I smiled and stood too. Then go ahead. Try. He walked out of the room, and for the first time in weeks, I exhaled, because now he knew. I wasn't the woman he could manipulate anymore. I thought the worst was over. I was wrong. Just when I thought I had seen all of Mark's tricks, he went even lower. 3 days later, Anna called me into her office. Her tone was clipped, serious. He just filed a lawsuit, she said as I walked in. He's accusing you of financial fraud. My heart sank. What? He claims you illegally moved marital assets. He's alleging you embezzled funds from your joint accounts. I slumped into the chair across from her. He can't be serious. He is, Anna said grimly. And there's more. She slid a file across the desk. He's not alone. He filed with a co-plaintiff. I opened the folder. The name hit me like a punch to the gut. Iliamero. It was the name from the text message, the one I had read on Mark's phone. Who is he? I asked. Anna crossed her arms. A known fraudster. He's been linked to multiple cases involving forged documents. No convictions yet, but a long trail of suspicion. I flipped through the documents. They were detailed, filled with numbers and fake transactions, some even mimicking my signature. These aren't mine, I said, my voice rising. These are fabrications. Anna nodded. We know, but we have to prove it, and fast. My hands clenched into fists. All the fear I'd been carrying turned into fire. He's trying to bury me in lies again. Anna's eyes narrowed. Then let's make sure those lies collapse on top of him. She handed the file to a forensic finance expert. For the next week, we worked nonstop, gathering real transaction records, tracing digital footprints, verifying every move I had made. I barely slept, but I kept going because this wasn't just about money anymore. This was about my name, my integrity, and my right to defend what was mine. By the end of the week, we had everything we needed. The expert traced the false documents to Ilya Mero's firm. The dates didn't match, the signatures were off, and most importantly, there was no pay. Our trail connecting those fake transactions to any of my real accounts. Mark had thrown everything he had at me, but the truth was stronger, and it was on my side. A month later, we walked into court. Anna was calm, sharp as ever. I sat beside her, dressed in navy, my shoulders back, my hands steady. Across the room, Mark looked like a shadow of the man I once knew, angry, twitchy, unprepared. The judge reviewed the case carefully. Our documentation was airtight. Ilya Mero never showed up. The moment the ruling was read aloud, I closed my eyes, not out of relief, but out of finality. The court dismissed Mark's claims. He was denied access to any part of my trust. His defamation tactics backfired, and instead of winning anything, he was ordered to cover my legal fees. After the hearing, he tried to approach me in the hallway. "You didn't have to do this," he said, voice low. I looked him straight in the eye. "No, Mark, you didn't have to do this." Then I walked away for good. In the weeks that followed, I picked up the pieces of my life slowly, carefully. I returned to writing. I took long walks in Central Park. I let the quiet replace the chaos. I didn't celebrate. I reflected, because victory doesn't always feel like joy. Sometimes it feels like peace after a storm. Sometimes it's just the absence of fear. I learned something through all of this, something every woman should know. Trust is a gift, but control over your life is a right.